Welcome back to The Real Room. I'm your host, Lucretia Mitchell, and on this episode, we're diving into a conversation that's been stirring in my spirit for a while. A conversation about identity, resilience, and the power of voice. Here in The Real Room, we often talk about showing up as our full selves, embracing our culture, acknowledging our struggles, pursuing healing, and stepping into our power. Today's guest embodies all of that with a quiet strength and an unwavering authenticity. He carries the legacy of his ancestors with pride, honoring the rich heritage of the Caddo and Comanche nations. Through his work, he amplifies voices that have long been silenced, reminding us of the strength found in our roots and the importance of forging our own paths. He's a storyteller, a truth teller, and a bridge between generations. His journey is a testament to the resilience of marginalized communities and the transformative power of embracing one's identity. So settle in. And as we embark on this heartfelt dialogue about heritage, healing, and enduring power of keeping on. Welcome.
I can't help but cheese. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Welcome. So I want you to introduce yourself. I know you just from the real estate world, and I've watched you just navigate through different spaces, and you have this strength and this power that is, it's like a quiet strength and power. Like when you enter the room, you know, and people want to know, okay, who is this guy in these shorts with these tattoos and what's going on, right?
Yeah.
But I want you to introduce who you truly are.
Well, yeah, first, I would love to say, because I was thinking of it today on my way, I met you 5 years ago or so now, because we just met for coffee.
Yes.
And then it's so cool to be here now.
Yeah.
It seems like yesterday, but it's nice that who you meet along the way can be, part of the journey.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm Zack Davis. I'm a realtor and real estate investor. On the business side, I've been doing that for about 8 years now. I really thrive off and on market, but customer service is the most important thing. So I just try to treat everybody with the same level of respect and handle them the best way possible. And it's helped me grow my business over the years. Since I've been able to grow my business, it's given me a lot of time to work on me as well. And that's probably been the most important, why I've been the most comfortable and why I keep getting more comfortable, is just because I've had time to work on myself or do hobbies or take time for myself. I told you I was doing that horse ranch before this. I just, I'm a pretty chill guy that just wants to be very well-rounded in my life. So I focus hard on the business, focus hard on myself and my loved ones.
Awesome. Now you failed to mention you are the creator.
Oh yeah, I'm
yeah,
a podcaster. Keep going podcast. My bad. I'll tell you a funny story. So I went to Home Depot recently to get some wood, and the lady said, "Are you a podcaster?" And I did freeze because I was like, I didn't think that. But yeah, we were just talking. I'm 65 episodes in.
Yes.
So yeah, the Keep Going podcast, the reason I'm here with you today.
Yes. And I had the honor of being on your podcast, and I feel like we could have kept going all day, just because every time I get around you, it's an aura about you that is just, I don't know. Every time I'm around you, it's like a feeling of just being rooted, just peaceful, just calming. And I love just being in your presence just because I learned so much. You're a very intriguing person. And so I just wanted to tell you congratulations on 65 episodes.
Thank you.
On just your journey and everything that you have going on. It is amazing. So before we get into it though, I always do this with my guests. I do it this or that. But for you, I know you do a lot of traveling. And so I wanted to ask you this question, just kind of like a little icebreaker. What is one spot, I would say one country, that if you could live forever, where would it be?
Honestly, I'll be happy to answer this later in life because I'm still early on that international journey.
Yeah.
But we've been traveling internationally for a little over 3 years now, my wife and I. If I had to pick just based off where I've been right now, I'd probably go to the Netherlands. I like that a lot. It's really relaxed. It's very family oriented, but safe. So you'll see 3, 4-year-olds riding their bike to school.
Yeah.
And then you also see 80-year-olds riding their bike, and everyone's in shape, and they have a very good work culture, and the food and everything is a lot healthier. And then, not to go down that rabbit hole, but like air quality is really good.
Yeah.
There's quite a few benefiting factors. Now, once I travel more, it might be somewhere else.
Yeah.
But right now, I would probably say the Netherlands, just because it's really well rounded on that. Quality of life is high.
Yeah. Yeah. So I do have a question, and we're gonna get down into it. And I'm gonna just hit hard here. You are Native American, heritage, culture, all of the things. And I just want to know if you could say right now, what is the one thing that you feel that people misunderstand about you all?
I would say I would say probably one of the obvious ones is like a drinking culture. Like they say
Mm,
a lot of natives drink and stuff, and they do. I interviewed a guy named Jake Keys, who's the owner of Skydance Brewery, one of the only Native American owned
mhm.
breweries. And he was big on that, like, and it didn't hit me. He's the one that really helped me really put it in perspective is, yeah, we can drink in social settings too. I
Yeah.
never thought about that. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that like comes to mind. Um, I would just say probably that more of the drinking culture, and then just low level.
Yeah.
Unless you go to certain areas that are mainly native. I mean, it's just kind of how it is.
Yeah.
But that's probably the biggest misconception I would see.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit just about your upbringing and what that was like the first time you experienced a ceremony or just your culture in general. What
Yeah.
was that first time like?
So if I go to some of my earliest memories, I'm a little bit older. I'm probably like 6 or 7, but there are some pictures that I can kind of recall where I was maybe 3, 4, something like that, at a powwow with my
Hmm.
grandparents. I didn't grow up on a reservation or living in a native town, but I was lucky enough that my grandfather had a huge influence on me. His name's Jackson Davis, and he made sure to instill that. So
Yeah.
when I'd go around him, I'd get it like full time. So it was really nice. But probably the powwows, and then my earliest memory was honestly when my great grandmother died, his mother. It was the first time I remember having a sage ceremony. So
Mhm.
before we started, I let you smell some sage.
Yeah.
So at our funeral, they burn sage and bless you with an eagle feather. And that's really instilled in my memory, even though at the time I didn't really know what was going on.
Yeah.
But that was probably the two things I remember, because after she passed, we did that sage ceremony, but then there was a list of things we were supposed to do after. So I
Hmm.
learned a little bit about the culture. So, like, how long the fire needed to burn and what days to cook the meals. And then
Hmm.
once a year after that for so many years. And it gets even into more detail of like, once they start that fire, it can't go out till the last piece of food is done. And it was just all these things that I got to just observe. I
Yeah.
was kind of too young to really know the details,
Hmm.
but those are some of my earlier memories. And hearing the drums, when you're at a powwow, they're banging the drum in the middle.
Hmm.
And I really love that noise. And then I love just the powwow songs. They're usually war songs or love songs or things like that. So I think it'd be the music, the sage ceremonies, and then just being around my grandfather who was native.
Yeah. I've always been so interested just in the ceremonies
Mhm.
and just your heritage and all the things that richness, I guess I would say, as a Black woman within the Black community. Unfortunately, we can't trace our bloodline or our ancestors back but so far, right?
Mhm.
And so some of that richness that I see from you and just your culture, it inspires me. It's amazing, and I wish I had that in a sense. And so I am just wondering, do you feel like when we talk about marginalized communities, do you feel like in some way there's a piece of you that you haven't been able to trace back, I guess, in a sense? Like, how
Yeah.
far back can you go when it comes to your ancestors?
Yeah. So, first of all, thank you for all the compliments. It
Yeah.
means a lot. And I know you mean them because of our relationship. So it's
Yeah.
really sweet of you. But on the native side, I'm pretty blessed
Mm-hmm.
just because my grandfather made sure to tell me where we come from.
Yeah.
But I actually just started, this is in the last few days, wanting to talk to my mom's side more and see where they're from, because I know it's my white side, but I don't know where they're from. They got to be from somewhere. So I'm going to look into that. But on the native side, on the Caddo tribe, I can go back some. I can go back to my great grandmother's parents, and I don't know much after that.
Yeah.
But on the Comanche side, I'm blessed. I come from Quanah Parker, and people who know any Native American culture will know who Quanah Parker is. He was the last Comanche chief.
Oh, wow.
And he was actually the one that was one of the last to come to a reservation. And there's
in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's pictures of me in his house and things like that. So my grandpa made sure to tell me where I come from on that side. So on that side, we can go to his parents, and he was born in like 1871. So we can go to their parents and then see him, and then see the trickle down effect to my dad. It doesn't show my name, it shows my father's name. But that's always been nice, especially when I bump into people who know of him, or if you're in certain parts of Texas, he's super popular because that's where a lot of Comanches were.
Yeah.
I went to a coffee shop in Amarillo one time, and there's a big picture of him on the wall, and I'm like, that's so crazy. And of course, he has a ton of descendants, but to be able to look up and see that is a blessing.
Yeah.
And something that maybe you'll resonate with. On the native side, my grandpa went to California for a long time in the 70s, and he did undercover narcotic work and all these things. But he was in the mountains and all this beautiful landscape, but he came home, and I asked him why, and he just said because he missed his people. So we're lucky to kind of know where we come from on that side, but I'm still learning more on the other, because even we can find deeper connections on it.
Oh, for sure.
I wasn't as interested in it before, but now I am.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just lately I've been even more interested in just where my family came from.
Right.
On my mom's side, I can go back to my great great grandparents, and I know that my grandfather was from Alabama, and my great great grandmother was from actually my great grandmother was from Louisiana, and they were Creole, and so that's as far as I can go back. And so it's been very interesting because I'll get bits and pieces of our story, but I know that there is so much more, and I wish I could trace it back to 1871. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I had that, but unfortunately I don't.
Well, and it took one person to do it too. So I'm lucky. I'm saying it as a great thing now, but it was just because he chose to tell me.
Yeah.
That's how quick it can be lost, because I mean, I'm 33 years old this year, and I'm just going to ask my mom's mom where her people are from. If it's not something that's instilled in you, it's not something you're going to keep up with.
Right. Right. And I do believe it can get lost over time. And so that's why it's so important to tell those stories, to share that information. Like, I think it's so important for people to truly understand where they come from, and it shapes who you are, right? So how do you feel like, knowing what you know and experience what you have been able to experience in the last 33 years, how has that shaped your identity and just your sense of community?
I would say leaning into the Native heritage has been something I've done more in the last probably 7 years than I had my whole life. And it wasn't because of shame or anything. It just wasn't something I grew up around.
Right.
Like I said, I grew up in the city. So I always resonated when I was around other natives, but I didn't grow up with that in the community.
Yeah.
Like 6 months ago, I went to Gallup, New Mexico, just driving through to Arizona. And that's a really native town. You've probably never been to Gallup, but it's like,
and it's in Oklahoma.
No, New Mexico.
New Mexico. Okay.
Yeah, and it's all native. So I'm sitting at a restaurant getting some Navajo tacos, and I'm the only white person. Well, see, and I'm native, but I'm the only white person in there. And it's all natives, and that's new for me. I just didn't grow up that way. So I think when I was young, my grandpa, I'll always bring him up because he really instilled it early. He came to my 4th grade class and had me dress up and play a flute. And I was so embarrassed when I think back, like on that day. And I didn't like disrespect him. I did it. Right. But at the time I was so I don't know, I guess embarrassed.
Yeah.
There was no natives in my class. I felt different, but I'm so happy that he did that, because teaching me how to play the flute is something I do now. And my friend was going through a tough time. I was talking to him, and I taught him how to play the flute. So there's like these little things I can pass on. And I guess I'm coming into my wisdom of knowing that I can pass those things on. because I've been practicing them myself, but I have to understand that I have the right to pass on that Native heritage and also educate people and share those stories.
Yeah.
Because maybe they wouldn't even know to ask about certain stories. So people I'm around, like I'll make sure to share something that maybe, they wouldn't think of, just to
Yeah.
pass it forward. But I think it gave me a lot of identity. As I told you, I'm unknown on the other side.
Yeah.
But on this one side, I have a lot of resonance.
Yeah.
So it gave me
Yeah.
a lot of structure from his side.
I love that. I think, when we talk about just our identity, and, a lot of times you're 33, I'm
Mhm.
about to be 43 this year. It's crazy. I was 10 when you were born. Anyway. But, I think about just our identity, and I'll be honest with you, I probably didn't really come into who I was and really be able to own it until probably like 5 or 6 years ago, right?
Yeah.
When was that moment where you were like, okay, I'm embracing this? I heard you say about 7 years ago,
I
but
would
when
say
was
probably 5, 7 years ago. It probably
okay?
started with, honestly, meeting my wife, Rachel. She, asked me who I was, where I'm from, those type of
Yeah.
things. And she was doing some of those native things like sage and meditation and things like that before me, but it just made
Mm,
more sense when she brought it up. And she has some heritage as well, but she didn't know that at the time.
yeah.
So meeting her and leaning more into that side helped. And then once I got more comfortable with that, I would just, I guess I would just be more intentional when I was over at my grandparents as well, because I grew up with him doing sage blessings and cedar blessings and, burning the smoke
Mm-hmm.
and the eagle feathers. But it wasn't just like all the time.
Yeah.
But, you know, she always would say, you need to go over there because those times are dwindling down. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like a clock. So every time I'd be over there, I'd be like, hey, can I burn some sage, or can I burn some Palo Santo, or can we have a little ceremony? And near the end, because he passed last year in October, it happened a lot more frequent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think meeting her probably kick-started it. And then I just had the confidence to lean into it more. Because I think when you're growing up, you're a product of your environment.
Yeah.
And the friends I had just weren't natives.
Yeah.
So I just didn't grow up with them. I still remember a native guy that played at Norman High School that had a super long ponytail, and he stood out to me because I remember that. Like, I
Yeah.
was like, oh no, he's like native for real.
Yeah.
But I didn't grow up in that community. I grew up in Moore, Oklahoma,
Mm-hmm.
and it was more white people, black people, Mexican people, some Asian, but mainly that was the crowd. So
Yeah.
there wasn't a lot of Native Americans. So my identity was more with the people I was around.
Yeah.
And I think as I grew up, I started leaning into it more and understanding that like a percentage doesn't dictate how much I need to be something either.
Yeah. Come
Like
on.
if I'm this much native, like I'm still native, and that's just really given me a lot of confidence even in my daily life. Like if I'm new to rock climbing, I'm still rock climbing.
Yeah.
Or if I'm new to horse training, I'm still horse training. I
Right.
even diminished it when I was talking to you off camera.
Yeah.
You like try to minimize it. So I'm trying to learn to just own those things. And I
Yeah.
think that's a compound effect, and it's just been kind of growing.
Yeah, I love everything that you just brought up. Some great points. When we talk about marginalized communities, what do you feel like people often get wrong about that experience? Because you just talked about going to New Mexico, right, and feeling like you were the only white guy,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? What does that look like when you go into communities where you're the minority or you're the person that people are looking at
Hmm.
different? What does that feel like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So one, I didn't honestly, anytime I've been in a situation like that, I will say in my experience, I haven't felt singled out. I bet I'm the one that notices. No, it's probably equal on like them noticing it,
Yeah.
but I'm probably the one that feels the
Mhm.
weirdest.
Mhm.
So even at that place in Gallup, it's like, dang, this is a lot of natives.
Mhm.
Like every store you see is native. It's interesting. But when I've gone to other places, like my first time to Atlanta,
Yeah.
like I was like, man, more people probably need to see this. And
Mhm.
I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty diverse guy,
Yeah.
but even for me, seeing that much amazing Black culture, I'm like,
Mhm.
man, people should see this more.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be just Dell City.
Yeah.
Like they should see this. So, or when I went down to Florida and saw a lot of Hispanic culture, like it's just cool to dive into it. But as far as like singled out, I don't think I've got to luckily experienced that much.
Yeah.
I'm pretty blendable with the crowds.
Yeah. Be able to go in between.
Hmm.
Yeah. So let me ask you this too. I think it's important. We're both open-minded people,
Hmm.
right? We're very much, I want to learn about your culture. I want to understand. What do you think about people that are closed-minded and what our future looks like when it comes to those type of people?
I would say I think it's more American style
Mm.
thoughts than anything.
Yeah, because
Because
you've been all over. So
once I
yeah,
started traveling, like it was different.
yeah,
And now that's me saying that.
yeah.
So I'm not speaking for any other race, but I just didn't see the separation as much
Mm-hmm.
when I've been in other places.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think that's an American mindset, but I think it's just a really stupid mindset as well. But I come from a mixed family. I grew up with an older sister who's half black, half white. My nephews are mixed as well.
Which one of them just graduated,
Yeah,
right?
Kingston just
Yeah,
graduated.
shout
He's
out to
actually in
him.
Hawaii right now.
Oh, must be
He's living his
nice.
life.
Yeah.
But I mean, those are people that I grew up with.
Yeah.
And so I always had an interesting experience because I was, I guess, cool enough to be with certain crowds, but then I may look wide enough for someone to say something really reckless.
Yeah.
So that was interesting to navigate as I've grown up,
Yeah.
even now today in sales and things.
Yeah.
I mean, an old white man would love to say something crazy because I look like I'm on his team. So I see a lot of range.
Yeah.
And that's been interesting along the way.
Yeah. I we traveled over to Paris
Hmm.
and everything that you said just about there wasn't like there's so much diversity over there.
So much.
And it felt like nobody cared what you look like, how much money you were making. It was just a very diverse place and it was beautiful, right? And I say beautiful in a sense of just seeing all the different things
What
and
stood
the
out to me is
history.
they're just French.
Yeah, yeah.
So, like, you see all these races in Ireland or
Mm-hmm.
something, they're Irish.
You're right.
And we're American, but then we separate it a lot. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you're American, but are you like white, black, Mexican?
Right, right.
So that was interesting because they're
Yeah.
like, I'm British. And I'm
Yeah.
like, duh. Like,
Yeah.
that's just me being closed minded. So it's nice to see that. But when you get out of your bubble, out of your comfort zone, you see
Yeah.
other things.
Yeah. True. True. All right. So, in what ways do you see storytelling as a form of resistance and healing for Indigenous communities and others on the margins?
So it's interesting. You know, when we talked about a week ago,
Mm-hmm.
we were talking about guests,
Mm-hmm.
and you said, I just really listen to God, lean into Him, and that's how I move pretty
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And when I interviewed Jake Keys at Skydance,
Mm-hmm.
that was 2 weeks ago, and his episode will come out soon. So stay tuned, keep going podcast.
Yes.
But
Shout it out.
they, when we were near the end of the conversation, he brought up, man, he had passion too. He was like, I just think it's so important what you're doing. There's not a lot of Native American run podcasts, and the people need to hear these stories. And I was like, dang, like I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
Like the same thing I told you earlier, like, oh, I rock climb, but I'm not a rock climber. So like
Right.
that's what I felt when he was bringing it up. I was like, man, I didn't think that was like my role.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I was done with his, someone reached out from seeing me talk about it, and he's a lender from Missouri, and I'm meeting him in Tulsa tomorrow to record a podcast. And he's Native. He's going to start one to interview chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
And then you brought it up. That's what you wanted to talk about. And I was like, maybe it was something that I didn't know that the podcast was going to grow into. I believed in the storytelling because that's how it's been the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe the reason I have interviewed certain Native people, or I do bring up my stuff in my episodes, maybe it's laying more of a foundation than you think.
Yeah.
Because I'm just trying to be me. But as we said, with how God works, that's really back to back. And that's how my life's been since I became more intentional and became more, I guess, loving and just trying to be better.
Yeah.
These things keep happening. And it's less of a surprise, but it's interesting
Yeah.
because it was back to back. You interview someone, he brings this up, then someone reaches out, then you reach out, and it's like, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. When you reached out, I was like, okay. And I told you what I said, right? But I felt every bit of, because this is a conversation that I've wanted to have, and I wanted to, make sure that when something does come to me that it makes sense, right? And so when you brought it up, I was like, okay, maybe this is God's way of like saying, okay, it's time, because I've always wanted you on the
But you
podcast.
don't know where you'll hear it or like how.
How exactly?
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we get the opportunity to give people a platform to be able to share the stories that a lot of people aren't. And I think it's so important for people to hear different perspectives and different stories, because it lets you into a world that you may not have even known existed. Right. And so I
Yeah.
think what you're doing is so needed.
Hmm.
What I'm doing is so needed. It wasn't because Lucretia wants to be on a podcast and be seen. That wasn't it. It was God has given me a story. He's giving me a platform. And I know that the lessons and things that I have learned is to help other people. And I think that's along the lines of kind of why you got into doing your podcast in a sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's funny when you take a step back. I was talking to someone about it. Like when you're in the mix of something, you don't really
Hmm.
realize what you're doing.
Yeah.
But we had a great episode. We
Hmm.
enjoyed each other's company, and that was like number
Months of,
12 or
yeah.
13 or 14, and we just said 65.
Yeah.
I got really addicted to hearing these people's stories
Hmm.
and then realizing that you don't, like, I don't dictate what people get out of it.
Hmm.
And the same with this. People don't, or I don't dictate what people get out of this. Like, I
Yeah.
can't push what they're going to absorb, but they get something.
Right.
And I just didn't know that, like, when we met for coffee 5 years ago, that, people can get something from those conversations.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's been nice getting the feedback of how people feel afterwards
Mm.
when they've had such a great time or they're not that vulnerable normally. Like, I'm just Zach.
Yeah.
But I'm big on people being comfortable, but it's funny that that's a skill.
Yeah.
And then I have someone on my podcast telling me about a time he was depressed and almost killed himself. And then at the end of the episode, he's like, yeah, I haven't even told my brother, so he'll hear it next week when it
Oh,
comes out. And I'm
wow.
like, I know your brother better than I know you.
Yeah.
Even though me and you have a relationship, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's also been a range, some are fun, some are this. And you mentioned earlier that people need perspective.
Hmm.
Something cool about the podcast was, even if you interview someone, you learn something.
Hmm.
Me and you have a relationship right now. I'm learning stuff about you, and likewise. My Uncle Harvey that I interviewed, he's a native chief of the Cheyenne Arapaho tribe in the El Reno Concho area. He told me a story of when he was growing up. All the older ladies always carried knives under their dresses because they were like from the 1800s, and native women had to have knives because they were the ones like were getting, attacked and killed, like killers of the flower moon, that type of stuff. And he was like, no, I grew up always seeing them with knives. And I was like, man, that's kind of crazy to think
Yeah.
of. There was something else that said, it was water fountains, and not water fountains, a courthouse. And it said no dogs or Indians on the grass. And that's El Reno. And
Wow.
then the other thing that was crazy, just for perspective, because, we're in a more safe time now, I guess, as far as like expectations. The daughters, when he was growing up, his sisters would ask the elders, the older women, why are you so much nicer to the boys? Like, why are you treating them better? And the old ladies would be dead serious and say, they're going to die for you one day. That when they come and attack the camp, the men have to fight for us and these things. And I'm like, that's 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, it's further now, but my uncle's 83. So he was born in the 40s,
Yeah.
maybe the late 30s. And that's what he was growing up with in the 40s. And that's less than 100 years.
Yeah.
So I just thought of it when you said perspective, because that's someone I personally know. But I sit down and have an intentional conversation like this and learn about stuff that put it into context for me. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So,
Wow. That was a lot. that was a lot. But I mean, I'm just, like you said, I'm sitting here learning so much. And just to think, like, we both have traveled different roads, right? We come from two different cultures. But hearing you talk, there are a lot of similarities with the way that we were brought up, with our culture, with what we've had to deal with. Didn't know that about El Reno, which of course I'm sure. I mean, it happened everywhere. But just to know that those things were happening with Native Americans, and then Black community, the only thing I can speak for, right?
yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad, but my hope is always that people can see people for just who they are, right? That it's not about what your skin color is, if you're male, female, whatever, that people can just see that, hey, I'm a person, just like you. And I think that's unfortunately what we're having to still have these conversations is disheartening. But I feel like the more that we tell our stories, the more that we share on these platforms, my hope is that hopefully it will help people to
Yeah.
open up.
I think travel helps the most.
Yeah.
And it may not be necessarily different skin color every time, but
Mhm.
just traveling to different countries and getting other perspectives on like
Yeah.
how they deal with their day to day. It just helps you live a better life. Like I said, I mean, I haven't even traveled enough to be able to tell you a specific
Yeah.
spot, but the experiences I've gotten traveling, whether it's domestic or international, the perspective just always grows.
Yeah.
And that's probably been the most fulfilling thing because it just makes you more comfortable in the world and
Yeah.
more good things happen to you. You come across better people.
Yeah. What book are you reading right now?
I'm actually not reading a book right now. I have a daily book.
Mm-hmm.
The guy at the coffee shop that I go to a lot, his name's Tim. He owns Toppy Coffee on North May.
Okay.
It's an organic coffee spot.
Yeah, he gets on to me all the time about my Starbucks. But anyway, we're not going to talk about it, but go ahead. Don't say nothing. Just
That's
keep going.
crazy. He gave me a book one day and he said, I think you should have this. It's just daily meditations for like a stoic person. So it basically just gives you motivation every day.
Yeah.
I've been reading that, but the last book I was reading was a fiction, or not a fiction book. It was more of like a pleasure for me book. It was a pool book,
Okay.
shooting pool.
Okay.
But I read that meditation book and then honestly, I'll tell you one more book just because you'll laugh. There's this one about, it's called American Serengeti.
Never
And
heard of
basically
it.
it's like, this is so nerdy. This is like 15,000 years back or more. And it tells about the animals that were here then.
What?
I know. That's the one I like to hear because it talks about the horses and the buffalo and where they came from and stuff.
Okay. That's interesting. Okay. Where did the horse come from?
I'd have to go back to
You
the
got to
chapter.
go back. Okay. It's been
It's
too
one of those
long.
ones that I
Okay.
listen to a lot, but those are like my books. The daily ones I like a lot though.
Yeah.
Because you'd be surprised that even though it's just a printed book that
Yeah.
they sell on the mass scale, it usually speaks to you when you're open to it speaking to you.
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. I know so many times I've read something or heard something, but it wasn't until later that maybe it hit me for whatever reason. And like you said, it could be that I was just open to it. So
Yeah, I had a book that was, it was for your inner child, like healing your childhood trauma and stuff, and
Yeah.
it would have stuff every day. And most of the time when I read it, it would be like kind of talking about something me and my partner were going through.
yeah.
Like if we were like having a disagreement, it would like kind of be talking about that.
Gotcha.
So that was interesting too. I kind of like those daily books.
Yeah.
I don't really sit down and read as much as I should.
Affirmations, things like that. Yeah.
Just stuff to give you a mantra for the day.
Okay. Okay.
What are you reading?
So, 3 things successful people do.
There you go. So listen to
Also-
her, everybody. A better book. You don't want to learn about the horses.
I have a few like in rotation. So yeah, Cure to Chaos, Dwayne Walker, which is a local guy here. What's another one? Today Matters. And then I've opened back up Atomic Habits. So I just
That's a good
kind of,
one.
yeah, I just kind of rotate and take snippets. That's probably not the best way to read, but that's just how my brain works. I can't sit and read through a whole
No, I'm
book.
kind of the same way.
Yeah.
But Atomic Habits is really
Yeah.
good. I like
Yeah.
that one a lot.
Yeah, I'm excited to get back into it. So, okay. So next question: when you look at your journey so far, who do you think about, and whose strength do you carry with you?
So before October of last year, I would say my mother's dad or my dad's mother, her name was Sandy, but I called her Grams. And then 2 others, it would be my best friend, Nick Williams. He was the one that kind of taught us death was real. We were 20, I was 21, he was 20. He got murdered in his apartment. And that shook us up.
Yeah.
Because he was better than us as far as like qualities and like cleanliness and shape and like mature. Like he was just better, at that age.
Yeah.
So it's crazy that those are the ones they take. But him, my friend Sydney's little brother, Nick as well, Nick Hammond, those 3 would be the ones that stuck with me the most. So that's what I leaned into a lot. But this last 6-7 months, I'm still working through the grandpa death. I lost my mom's dad and my dad's dad in the same week while I was traveling. And my mom's dad hit, but I didn't grow up with him.
Yeah.
So we had a great relationship. We connected on motorcycles. We had some great moments and nothing but love and respect. And his has been hard too. But my grandpa, I told you, was the one I was with every day.
Yeah.
And so my Papa Jackie, that's the native side. That's been hard. I carry a strength with me, and I understand that I can't be selfish of like just missing him so hard,
Yeah.
because that's not fair. So I'm trying to work through that. But it's funny, we talk about like how God works. That's something that's been coming up in my conversations along the journey, whether it's interviewing someone in a podcast or it's someone I'm just around and they're giving me some advice.
Yeah.
They can kind of just tell that that's something that's kind of struggling.
Yeah.
But I think I carry his strength. And even though Quanah Parker has no idea who I am, unless he's looking down and
Yeah.
now, but I like to think I make those natives proud too. I may not be
Yeah.
the guy dancing in the powwow and like living on the reservation and those type of things, but I make sure to be proud about it. And I've had moments that were very intentional that meant a lot to me, whether it was sitting in the Wichita Mountains and staring off into the sky and having my wife braid my hair and burning sage, or going to the Quanah Parker Lake as soon as my grandpa died and doing a ceremony with them with my feet in the sand. Like, I feel like they would be proud. So I probably carry their strength without even knowing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy how grief works. Moments you're good, and then others where you may just break down, right? And I'm sure you have some of those, or have had some of those. What has that journey been like, far as grieving your grandfathers?
I don't think I still haven't been able to just let it all out.
Mm,
Every time I'm about to, I do for a second, and then it kind of slows down.
yeah.
But I think maybe I'm slowing it down. So I don't know really. I would like to say up here confidently to everybody that like I'm working through it great and everything's good, but I don't think it would keep coming up as often if I
Yeah.
was through it. I mean, my nephew graduated 2 nights ago in Norman, and I drove by my grandpa's house and no one's there. My grandma's out of town. And I looked at the house. I'm like, man, all his stuff's in there, like just sitting. Um, and I just wanted to stare at his house.
Yeah.
But so I'm not through it. It's been tough. It's seeing how your parents change when they lose their parents is tough. Realizing it's real. Seeing pictures of 6 months before and y'all are doing normal stuff,
Yeah.
and then they're gone. But I always say I felt like I was the closest to him, even though I know I wasn't.
Yeah.
Like obviously my tutu was closer to him. My aunts that were like his kids are obviously closer to him, but he just had a special way of making me feel important and heard and safe. So I miss that. But when I break it down to what I truly miss, it's stuff that he was just giving me.
Yeah.
So he's not going to give forever. So that's what I've been working through.
Yeah.
Because it's not I wish he was here and still in pain or any of those things. It's like I wish I could call him and just tell him all about my day like I always did. It's like he did that though.
Yeah.
And now he's closer. Like you can't just talk to him forever. Like that's not fair to you or him. So as you can see, trying to figure it out. It's been
Yeah.
tough on me, honestly.
Yeah. It's been over probably about, I would say, 8 years now that I lost my great uncle, who was like my grandfather to me. And even sitting here now talking about it, I'm about to cry.
Hmm.
But it's still something that I work through. I do like you. I'll drive by his street and just stare at his house. There's moments where, I'll sit in my bed and I'll just have a conversation. Like, not that he's talking back to me,
Hmm.
but just moments where I'm like, okay, I hope I'm making you proud, and I'll say to my husband, because he was big on like IRAs and just real estate and that kind of stuff. And we'll always talk about, man, if he was here, how proud he would be, right? And so I know that is one of those things that is going to always be, something is cyclical, right? You're going to go through it here and there. There's going to be moments. And so I truly believe, and this is without knowing your grandfathers, that they would definitely be proud of you.
Yeah.
I see the work that you're doing and the voice that you're giving other people, and I'm proud of you, right?
Yeah. And that means a lot
So
too.
yeah,
Of course for them, but just coming from you because, this is just a person to person. And
yeah,
that means a lot.
yeah.
No, I definitely Appreciate that.
especially in a very competitive world that we're in when it comes to real estate. Sometimes you don't get to hear that. And so
That's what I love about Oklahoma, honestly.
Yeah.
It's competitive, but I haven't been to a couple places, but I've worked in other markets and it's not as collaborative.
Yeah,
So for
for
me,
sure.
it seems to be collaborative, but maybe that's based because I treat people well, because I usually don't have bad interaction. So I am happy about that with the Oklahoma City market.
Yeah. Good. Good. All right. Okay. So what's one truth or challenge you want people to sit with after this conversation?
Mm. I would say try not to diminish two things. Try not to diminish your gifts, because I've told you examples of me trying to do it multiple times. Just lean into what you want to lean into. You have the right to engage in any part of yourself. Like if you want to be on this side or you want to try a new hobby, those type of things really matter. So I think doing things for yourself and like really leaning into that is huge.
Yeah.
And I don't think people take enough time for themselves. I do a lot of stuff for myself, and I probably should do more, but I really make sure to make myself happy in a healthy manner.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm playing tennis today, or I'm rock climbing today, or I'm riding my motorcycle to a lake to sit for a second. Or even today, I went to look at a house with my friend that may buy it. And then afterwards, we sat at the lake for a second and talked about what I told you we were working through on my podcast, like just having moments. So I would say just really lean into that and not diminishing your gifts and like taking every moment. But also just be nice to yourself.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend recently, and you never know what level someone's at, and you're trying to give them guidance, and it's like, oh dang man, like my bad, I should have realized that like we need to go to step one and be like,
Right.
hey, just talk nice to yourself. I thought you could already do these things.
Yeah.
And that's inconsiderate of me to like dictate where someone's at, but I was like, okay, step one, like we're gonna be nice to ourselves on the daily. And it seems simple, but that internal monologue or whatever it is, like that's all the time. So if you're beating yourself up and you're going through challenges and you're not taking time for yourself, it's just going to get worse and worse.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I just try to lean into the good times and the good parts of me and be nice to myself and try my best.
Yeah. Are you a believer in therapy?
Yeah.
Okay.
I probably should do, it's not probably, I like to use that filler, but I should do more therapy. But something that changed my life was going to Green Shoe Foundation. And for the listeners, you should really check it out.
Okay.
It's all about inner child trauma, and you go for a week, Monday through Friday from 8 to 4 or 8 to 5. And you pay a deposit, and at the end you get it back if you go the whole time. So it's a nonprofit, but they're really just pushing therapy.
Yeah.
And it's group therapy, and you get to learn a lot about yourself. And for me, it was the first time I'd sat still in so many years to sit for 40 hours, especially being an entrepreneur. I'm like, I'm going to this house, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna go have lunch, then I'm doing this. So it made me humble myself to be like, just sit down.
Yeah.
And then I had to humble myself again to talk in a room of people. And then I had to be there every day.
Yeah.
So I would think therapy is important for everybody, and it comes in different ways. I told you I was at the lake with my friend Sonny today, and that was therapy, getting to talk to him. So I think being able to talk to people is huge in whatever way you can, but that professional help is really important too, because I mean, they're professionals. They're going to know how to guide you a little better. And if I wouldn't have went to Green Shoe because my wife said I needed to after she had done it, I wouldn't even be where I'm at today, even though I don't do regular therapy.
Yeah.
And that's because I was able to get some really good habits.
Yeah.
You know?
So you don't, I wasn't going to bring this up, but you talk about your wife, and I've seen a few pictures, and I know that I am my best version at times because of my husband, right? And so talk about just the importance of her in your life.
Yeah. And I got to shout out Chai. He's a legend. That's his name, right, Chai?
Yeah.
Okay. That's why
Like
I can't forget it.
Yeah.
He's cool. He's really nice.
Thank you.
As I said earlier, she does a lot for me, with telling me things I need to work on or leaning into certain cultural aspects. And I think the biggest thing, though, and we talked about it today because me and her talk all the time, obviously, is we just really want to be the best versions of ourselves. And that makes us better with each other because we really want us to be the best, whether it's physical shape, emotional shape, mental shape, financial, any of those aspects. We want the best version of us, but for us. And I think that's probably where some people get it confused. I'm still young. I can't tell people how they need to love or how they need to see their relationship. But for me, what changed in our relationship and really pushed us to the next level was focusing on making ourselves happy and making ourselves the best version, not trying to make us the best version.
Yeah.
And once we started doing that interpersonal work, then everything else became like not autopilot in a sense that you can't give it attention, but like smooth.
Yeah. It's a rhythm. Like you get into this rhythm. I can listen.
Yeah.
I get it. Like I, for so long, was trying to change who he was, right? And I had to realize, not that he was a bad person, but we both
normal.
came in. Yeah, you come in as an individual self and you're trying to combine these different things that you're both dealing with. And so I was so trying to change him. And it got to a point where it's like, okay, I can't worry about him. Like he's going to have to worry about himself. I need to work on me. And once we both started putting in the work for ourselves, like we did individual counseling, well, I did individual counseling and we did group counseling or marriage counseling. Then I started realizing, okay, this is it's getting better. And I can't focus on him and what he needs. He has to do that for himself. He has to do his own inner work. So
yeah. And she's had a lot of workload for sure, because you know, she's the one leading by example, and I'm able to follow behind that type of example. So it's just being open to try those things as well. And I noticed when she started working on herself, things got better on her side and for us. And when I could do it as well, it helped us both. So she helps me a lot. I mean, she's my favorite person to be around. I tell her my favorite thing is when we're like traveling somewhere and we're just sitting somewhere eating. I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
We had a coffee date today. She said, "You got some time for me this morning?" I was like, "Yep." So we went and we had coffee, and sometimes we play dominoes. Sometimes we're just hanging out.
I love that.
But we make time for each other, even though we're really busy. And she just means a lot to me. And I got lucky having a best friend, but in a crazy sense, to be honest, because my wife rides a motorcycle. We do jujitsu. We kickbox. We rock climb. We hike. We camp. She does everything. So it's like I got really lucky. Like you grow up as a guy and your boys are everything.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, she's a girl and she does everything. Like, holy crap.
This is
so like
cool, yeah.
that's kind of crazy. And like we'll play a video game or we'll do puzzles or we'll shoot pool. Or I'm just like,
that's your best friend.
So I got really lucky.
Yeah.
But she's like all jokes aside, she's a good person. And she's really just trying to live a healthy life for her and just be grateful and be positive. And I just admire her for that. And I try not to control any of her growth.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it the other day. We took a trip together and we've both taken solo trips together and we're planning another trip. So we're okay with the space and working on yourself and having fun. And I don't know.
Yeah.
We just try to grow.
I love that. Like, first of all, I love. Okay.
Yeah, right.
But when you can be the best friend, be married to your best friend, that's on a whole nother level. Like, that's me and Child. Like, we don't have to go nowhere. We don't have to be with nobody else. We can literally be in the bed playing footsies, him on his phone, me watching the show, and I'm good.
Which I thought that was like unhealthy when you see the memes of pictures on their phone, but it's like, no, you know how comforting it is to like be out in the world with all those struggles all day and then come home and we're just comfortable.
Yep.
And she wants to catch up on whatever show she wants to watch and I want to play the game.
Yeah.
Like that's a cool moment too.
I'm good. Like as long as we still breathe in the same air, I am good. So yeah.
But I will say just something to finish on with her is we both just really lean into experience. So we just try a lot of stuff together. So it brings you closer when you go through uncomfortable times together.
Oh, for sure.
Whether it's international travel, going to a new restaurant, trying a new discipline, like we just do things. So it makes you closer.
Yeah. Traveling will definitely test a marriage. I'm telling you. Woo.
And it's gotten better with time for sure.
All right. So for someone listening who feels unseen or like their voice doesn't matter, what would you say to them?
I would say I didn't realize that was something I struggled with growing up, is just being used to being quiet.
Yeah.
And I would say that everybody does matter. I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, and it may sound cliche, but everybody has something to say. Even when I see like a really sketchy looking homeless person, I try not to give them judgment eyes.
Yeah.
I try to just look at them and say something if they say something to me. I don't want to ever be like diminishing on life. So I would say if you really don't feel like you have anybody, like start with loving yourself,
Yeah.
because you can want all these people to care about you. And I get that. I'm blessed that I have family and friends. For Sydney that I told you about, I've known him since I was 8 years old. So I'm blessed that I've had a lot of love, but a lot of people don't. But I know the people that don't, it could still help you to love yourself.
Yeah.
It seems simple, but taking care of yourself and having rules for yourself and just trying to be intentional with what you're doing and not just getting messed up all the time or eating bad food or consuming bad things. It could really change your life. Even if you are at a way where you feel unheard or have nobody or at rock bottom, you still got you at the end of the day.
Yeah. Listen, I got one last question for you. And that is, what does it mean to you to be your real self?
I think I said it earlier. You just really want to make yourself happy. And I feel like if you do that in the right way and you're really focused on that, it happens. It seems simple, but I just try not to have any bad days. It doesn't mean I don't have struggles. It doesn't mean that real estate fires don't pop up. It doesn't mean that personal things don't pop up. But I just try to take the ups and downs and try to close that gap as much as possible. I understand there's going to be peaks and valleys, but I just try to be as constant as possible and try to minimize that spread, I guess. And I just, it could be a lot worse. And my friend I interviewed on the pod one time was like, yeah, man, we're not supposed to be here. Like, you're not supposed to be doing grown up stuff. Like, we were getting drunk at 13 and like riding our bikes all night and stuff. Like, we're not supposed to be professionals. And I just never thought of that. I think it's because I always just wanted to be me.
Yeah.
That I didn't know that like I was beating these challenges along the way without knowing it. So my real self is me just being happy with myself and making sure that I do that daily. And I really just try to be grateful and happy and work hard and not take myself too serious. And I take experiences over everything. And I feel like that's something not everyone has the luxury of doing, but it is something that I lean into.
Yeah.
No matter how small or how large.
Thank you for sharing that. Tell me this, what's next for you and how can people find you?
Yeah. So as far as next, we talked about it before the pod. We're trying to get to 100 episodes on Keep Going. So stick with us. I am going to continue to grow in real estate. I'm a realtor and real estate investor. You can find me on Instagram at ZD Sales OKC. I'm on Facebook and I'm on all those crazy real estate groups too, trying to get deals done. So that's where I'm at. But I think what's next for me is just continue to grow and have more moments like this because they're really important. So even being able to come sit down with you is great because, were we able to have an episode before and have time together and all these things? Yes, but this is only one time. So I think this is really important and I'm thankful for the opportunity.
Well, no problem. It was definitely a pleasure having you, and I thank you for saying yes. And I am wishing you the best in everything that you do. It's never a competition between us. It's always being able to collaborate, and just like I said, your aura is just amazing. And so I just thank you for you being you and helping to provide a voice for those that are voiceless. So,
well, that means a lot coming from you and you just being so truthful about how you feel. It means a lot. And I didn't know it was an energy thing. It comes from a history of just being observant, but over time it's grown into some wisdom that I'm learning along the way. So I think this is awesome. You have a beautiful space. You treated me to it and I'm really thankful.
thank you. Thank you so much for showing up fully. Thank you for standing in the gap. Thank you for reminding us that our voice is our power. And when we speak, we don't just speak for ourselves. We speak for generations before and after us. Make sure to follow him on Keep Going Podcast. And if this episode moved you, share it with someone who needs the reminder. Until next time, keep showing up, keep speaking your truth. And as always, keep it real.